You see this team, and they're talking about A.J. Brown still. It's an injury. We want him. Are we going to ship him? This situation has to play out in the sense of, I think he wants to be there, but at the end of the day, you can't disrupt the locker room every single week. And the Eagles need him to be there if they're going to make a Super Bowl run.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The playoff matchups for Asher Genty are not great. We start to look ahead. I know it's early, but it's not that early. So Genty, I think, is still a better long-term guy than is maybe a redraft situation, especially with the schedule maps out. But I don't see a lot of games where he's potentially in a situation where the Raiders are ahead and running the football a ton, if you know what I mean. It's kind of tough out there for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Are they chanting? Is it over? Does
They'll
he accept
be gone
the
by
resignation?
halftime. No,
Are they chanting fire?
Probably.
Kelly,
Yeah,
clap, clap,
it would
clap,
be. It would be warranted. It would be. I mean, you won a national championship in 2019. You're getting top 5, top 10 recruiting classes each and every year. You had the quarterback back to back to back to back. How many more chances are you going to get? I mean, really, what are we doing here?
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
One playoff win, and it's been a train wreck in every other year. But if we all agree that he was right in how he handicapped the quarterback talent coming out of that draft, and they got the right guy, and I think we all do agree on that, then what's the benefit of bringing a totally new voice into the room to now be the coach of Jackson Dart?
The Craig Carden Show, only on SportsGrid.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Plenty to get to, including a recap of a surprising result on Monday Night Football. Also, the latest in the National Basketball Association. Some very close games. We'll get to that as well. Got great guests here on the show today. Week ahead in college football, a new coach let go in the Southeastern Conference. We will dive into the latest. And of course, Brad Thomas joins us to talk some National Basketball Association as well. So let's get to the very latest in sports. And would you believe we could have another sports betting scandal on our hands with the FBI involved? 2 in the last month, really this big? Okay, let's get to it. UFC fighter Isaac Dolgarian has been released from UFC's roster 2 days after sportsbooks have flagged unusual betting against the featherweight ahead of a first-round loss to Yadir Delval. Now, obviously, these are people that you may not have a lot of familiarity with, but in this legal world of sports betting, they can find out when players and fighters in this case are bet against. In addition, over 100 other fights were supposedly flagged by the FBI due to betting patterns. So buckle up, UFC. Could we have a potential scandal on our hands? Remains to be seen. Meanwhile, the National Basketball Association, one of their owners, Steve Ballmer, has been under a ton of fire for a no-show job allegedly given to All-Star Kawhi Leonard, and the story just keeps going deeper as the owner has been sued by 11 Aspiration investors. Aspiration is the company allegedly that gave Kawhi Leonard that no-show job. They allege that they used the company to secretly funnel millions of dollars to all-star player Kawhi Leonard. Ballmer has denied any wrongdoing in this one, and so this case just continues. The NBA, by the way, is investigating this. They've said very little on this entire situation. All right, Monday Night Football. The Arizona Cardinals finally won a game. 5 games in a row they had lost going into this one. And they beat the Dallas Cowboys finally last night. They get a win 27-17. Jacoby Brissett was the starter in this one. Threw a touchdown pass to Marvin Harrison Jr. that got the ball rolling, so to speak, for Arizona. Also, by the way, a good start again for Brissett. But Jonathan Gannon, after the game, told reporters that Kyler Murray will indeed start whenever he is ready. It looks like that could be potentially this weekend, but it had been a lot of close games. The Cardinals have lost. They finally put one full game together and closed it out, says the head coach Gannon.
Good win, good week of practice. Energy was there, focus was there, and it was good to see us close out a game. And, there's a lot of guys that stepped up, made a lot of plays. That's what it takes. So we'll enjoy it and be on to Seattle here tomorrow.
Just to get back to winning, the way the team was able to finish.
Yeah, I haven't won in a while, huh? Feels good. Feels good. I'm proud of those guys. They did a good job. But they know we got a lot of ball to play.
But, yeah, man, just so proud of the guys, the way we finished. It took 60 minutes. We came in at halftime, and the guys, everybody's preaching not about the first half, but about the second half and what we need to do to finish this game off. And I think coming into the game, I think we felt supremely confident that we were, that we had a chance to win this game. And I think everybody believed in each other, believed in the plans, and it was a complete team win.
And a rare under for the Dallas Cowboys, who have been scoring at least 20 to 30 points every game they play, especially at home where they've been fantastic. So what happened last night? Here's head coach Brian Schottenheimer on the lack of offense.
So we got to be better. I think this game came down to really three things. The giveaway takeaway battle, which we were not very good. We were loose with the ball all day, -3. You're never going to win games in this league being -3, and really the last one doesn't count, for Dak. He's just launching up there on 4th and forever. And then the situational football. We weren't able to sustain enough drives because we weren't very good on 3rd down, and they did a good job, and they converted some 3rds and longs.
They kicked our ass and both sides of the ball, limited the possessions early, but, we don't score on the first drive, don't score in the red zone. The next drive, I think 3-4 and out. Then we fumble when we're going to get a field goal. And then they were trying to kick a, 70-yard field goal to even get points before half. That makes it tough. And then try to make adjustments in the second half. But when you're down like that in the NFL game, we still had a chance. And then we didn't take advantage of the opportunities and the moments that we had in the second half. Very frustrating.
And it was also frustrating to not see the game in its entirety or any of it. It was not on YouTube TV last night. Former Cardinal J.J. Watt went on social media complaining about this. This carriage dispute continues. Doesn't look like ESPN and the Disney networks are going back on YouTube TV anytime soon. All right, trade in the National Football League. Today's trade deadline day. We'll see if we get a big deal. Here's a smaller one. Jacoby Myers, wide receiver, asked out of Las Vegas before the season. He finally gets his wish now. He goes to Jacksonville. The Jaguars get back a 4th and 6th. Jaguars send a 4th and 6th round pick to Las Vegas, and Myers will replace Travis Hunter, who's out for a period of time, and also Brian Thomas Jr., who is also hurt as well. Cowboys have acquired veteran linebacker Logan Wilson from the Cincinnati Bengals. Could be more trades coming up later today. We certainly will see. Big news from the Washington Commanders. Not only is Jaden Daniels going to miss the majority of the season, but Dan Quinn, the head coach, met with the media yesterday and was questioned as to why he left Daniels in a game so late, which seemed irrelevant. Of course, he injured his arm, and some people thought he should have been pulled out of the game way before then. And Quinn told the media that he agrees.
I know many of you have been asking about the thought process of Jaden being in the game in that situation. I get that. I've been thinking about it, honestly, nonstop too, and for me, the answer is, man, I missed it. But I would, I'll fill you in on my thought process. At the start of the fourth quarter, I guess it was probably like 12 and a half minutes left in the game. And that was going to be the last drive for a couple of guys, Jaden and Zach and Debo and LT. And so we're going to have any read run plays and meaning no carries, for the quarterback on a run. And honestly, man, that's where I missed it. Of course, he could scramble. It's Jaden. It's what he's special at. And that is 100% that's on me. And I also said last night in the presser to our fans that, man, did we miss our mark as a team. And with that performance, we need to fix it. They created an awesome environment, at the stadium for the game. And that fix needs to be done now. So just wanted to open up with that and get started. I'll also give you some other injury news. We'll confirm Jaden dislocated his left elbow. No timetable on that right now. Still gathering the information.
Some reports yesterday say it's not season ending for Daniels, but we will see where Washington is, especially being so far under 500. Meanwhile, the Bengals are in the same spot mostly because of their defense letting them down. I mean, Joe Flacco's been as good as Joe Burrow. I know it's crazy to say, but it is true. Chase Brown, running back of the Bengals after the game, seemingly taking a shot at the defense, saying they didn't get it done. And Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, didn't really like what Chase Brown had to say.
Chase Brown unloaded some frustration yesterday publicly. Do you want players to have the freedom to vent, or do you have to talk to them?
Not if you're not doing everything you can on your own, and I've pointed that out with Chase. There's 2 big plays that we could have done better that would have led to points. And so I think I liked Jamar a little bit better. I can tell Jamar's frustrated, but he didn't want guys coming at him if he's had a poor performance or something that he was disappointed in. So I trust that that's a one-time thing, and we'll learn from that. That's not how we want to react. And one of our best players, one of our highest character players, I think in a moment of frustration said that. And I don't expect that to happen again.
I think right now the Bengals are just looking to end their season. Hey, Joe Alt, unfortunately for the Los Angeles Chargers, re-injured himself, ankle surgery, going to miss the remainder of the year. National Basketball Association, we'll get to more of that with Brad Thomas coming up. Let me give you a quick recap last night. Big win for the Miami Heat on the road. They played great basketball at the start of the season. Bam Adebayo, 25 points, 120-119. Miami wins in L.A. Nikola Jokic, 34 points, 14 assists. Denver beats Sacramento 130-124. Houston is now 4-2 as Amen Thompson had 27 points as the Rockets beat the Mavericks. Giannis 33-13, a buzzer beater as well. The Bucks beat the Pacers 117-115. We'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. We come back next, the latest in the NFL with Donnie right side of the early line. Don't go away.
There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state, you're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Always good to chat with Donnie Rightside. Normally we do some baseball, but unfortunately the baseball season has come to an end. Donnie, we could have gone game 8. It was that good, and I kind of feel like for everything that's been said about baseball over the last few years, and rightly so, I think baseball's really starting to get it right. The pitch clock, everyone hated that. That's good. The competition in the postseason has been good as well. It was the most watched World Series game, by the way, since 2009. and 17. And I don't like to debate like which sport is better or whatever. I'm happy because it's a sport that I cover the most and involved with the most. I was really happy to see it run through the way that it did.
No, absolutely. And by the way, if you look at my timeline, like sometimes I'm very sarcastic, but not in this effort here. I think Rob Manfred is one of the best commissioners we've ever seen, and particularly for Major League Baseball when they needed it. For me, I love Craig every single move that he made to change the game, whether it was the DH in both leagues. The pitch clock has been fantastic. And I ask people now that didn't like the pitch clock, I said, go back and watch a playoff game from 10 years ago. And you tell me if you can watch that game. It's excruciatingly slow. One pitch every 4 to 5 minutes. The pitch clock saved baseball because it's not that we can't pay attention. We just want more action. The fact that you catch the ball, you get back to the mound and you pitch it again, fantastic. Maybe the best sports change of a landscape, let's just say in a rule change that we've ever seen. And I love it.
Yeah, and check swing challenge is going to be great next year too. I got news for you. A lot of people are going to enjoy that as well. We'll see. All right, so Donnie, I was driving my son to school today, and he was asking me, because he plays fantasy, do you think Jacoby Brissett is better than Kyler Murray? And the fact that he would ask me that question, with Jacoby Brissett, who was playing before he was born, tells me that at least we have to explore this conversation. Now, I know Jonathan Gannon said that when Kyler Murray is healthy, he's going to start. And I've seen Jacoby Brissett play for a long time. I've also seen a lot of backups come in, do a nice job for a few weeks, Donnie, and then fall flat. Is that the case with the Cardinals? Are they making a mistake here going back to Kyler Murray? And, honestly, I got to at least consider that question to you here, because he is one of the main reasons why they won the game yesterday. He solidified an offense that was really haphazard the last couple of years to more solidified and I would say more conservative. I don't know if we love that in the NFL, but it seems like that is what fits best for the Cardinals right now.
Yeah, exactly. And if we use a baseball terminology here, like the pitcher that's out there going, hey, you're almost out of gas. And the manager comes out and says, you know what? I'll let you stay out here until somebody gets on base. And as long as he continues to strike people out, nobody gets on base, you let him run. That's what you do with Jacoby Brissett. He's not the future of the Cardinals. We get that. Has he played better football over the past week than, let's just say, for the entire season than Murray? Yes, he has. But also, when you answer to powers above you, like the owner that goes, now, hold on now. I'm paying this guy X amount of dollars and Jacoby Brissett's the backup. Yeah, that starter's going to get back in there and earn his money. Short term, it's a great move for the Cardinals because you keep the locker room intact while your season is still in the balance. But the minute he starts to make some mistakes, I go right to Kyler Murray. And I do think they actually start Kyler Murray sooner than later. And I don't know if he's healthy enough. And once he is healthy enough, let's just say next week that he starts, we'll find out. But for me, short term, I love Brissett. He's not your long-term option. The minute he starts the foil, Kyler Murray's back in there for me, Craig.
Yeah, and look, he's been fantastic in his first three starts. He's done things that only Kurt Warner did with the Rams. I remember when Kurt Warner came in, it was so fantastic back in 1999, and then led them to, of course, a Super Bowl. Also, Jacoby Brissett in 3 starts, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. Kyler Murray, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's making certainly a lot more money there. Okay, trade deadline day. We've had 2 trades in the last few hours here. Logan Wilson, the Bengals' leading tackler, he's going to the Cowboys to kind of keep them in the race, I guess. I thought last night was a crusher for Dallas, honestly, Donnie, and they got to win the rest of the games this month to stay in it. And then also Jacoby Myers got traded, as we can see here. He goes from Las Vegas to Jacksonville, more of a depth piece for the end of the season, and hopefully for Myers, who really wanted out before the beginning of the season, he can get his contract that he wants because he'll be a free agent at the end of the year.
It's a good move by Jacksonville. You need that extra wide receiver. You're still in the playoff race. My only question is, what is the Raiders actually MO at this point? I thought they were terrible in the offseason. You get a coach that's in a win-now mode. Your organization technically isn't. You sign a quarterback that's aging. He's in win-now mode when I didn't think they should be at this point. And you have Max Crosby at defensive end. I want to see if they make more deals by the end of the day, which could include Max Crosby. I don't think he gets moved. But for me, I like the move of Jacoby Myers going to Jacksonville. I just don't know what the Raiders are doing at this point. Just throw in the towel in the season. It's not working.
Dallas Cowboys season win total has plummeted, Donnie, to 6.5 now. There was some thought that maybe they could stay in this thing. I kid around, Donnie, here on the show over the last week or so, saying just give me Dallas relevant on Thanksgiving and not some bum game on Thanksgiving Day. I don't know. Last night kind of crushed it, I think. I mean, look, they'll probably play a fun game, and it's better to have football on Thanksgiving than not coming up in a few weeks. But, man, couldn't they just beat Arizona with Jacoby Brissett? Oh, rough.
Yeah, you're right. It is rough. Like, you're looking at, you know what? Should have 2 wins on the calendar here coming up in the next 2 weeks, which included Arizona. Then you make some moves at the deadline. You get the team energized. It was such a bad performance. It wasn't like you lost 45-44, like it was a track meet game and you came up short. Arizona was the better football team last night, and they kept showing Jerry Jones in the box, like, 4th down, didn't get this here. And then their answer is to get Logan Wilson at linebacker, and does it matter at this point? It probably doesn't. I had Dallas in the playoffs to start the season. Dallas is now out of the playoffs, according to DRS, at this point in the season.
Thank you, Donnie, for making that adjustment here. All right, trade deadline day. Donnie will be up at 4 p.m. I know that. Yeah. So, Donnie, who gets moved from here? Hendrickson, Shaheed, Njoku, Chubb, Hall. I'm going to give you my Craig Mish prediction market. Yeah. I'm going to set the number here, Donnie, at 1.5 of those players moved. 1.5 over under.
That's pretty good. And you know what? I'm actually going to go under this because there's some dumbbell owners and franchises. Trey Hendrickson staying with Cincinnati for what? So he walks at the end of the year and you get nothing? He should have been traded before this were over the summer. You take a look at Shaheed. The future plans are not going to be in the next 2 to 3 years for the New Orleans Saints. He should be moved as well. Njoku you might want to keep with, but you have Fannin as the younger tight end. Bradley Chubb should be out of there. Breece Hall, the Jets aren't winning anything time soon. I know he's one of their better players, but he's a running back. By the time you get good Jets, he's going to be on the downside of his career. I think it should be over 1.5, Craig. But again, my stance is stupid owners make stupid decisions. It probably stays under the 1.5.
And generally speaking, it's usually much ado about nothing on trade deadline day in the NFL. Every once in a while, it's great, but generally speaking, it's not. Okay, Kalshi has odds, by the way, on the next pro head coach out, with McDaniel of Miami having the highest percent, which is what you can predict on their site. Do you think that is accurate, or is it someone else? 20 seconds.
He's clearly on the hot seat at this point. But if you go down that list there, you see Brian Daboll, Aaron Glenn. But I'm telling you, my guy's Atlanta. Raheem Morris. He's my first out here, Craig. How about that?
Yeah, I like that one, actually. All right, Donnie, have a great rest of your day.
Yep.
There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in a football state, you're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor, because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Some big college football matchups coming up, and we'll chat with them with Bill Bender. Is going to come in a little bit. But first, let's do the SportsGrid sound off. Let me tell you what I got coming up here. I got a preview of BYU, Texas Tech. We'll hit on Oregon and Iowa, and then two teams in the top 20 in the Southeastern Conference, Texas A&M and Missouri. All right, let's get to it. Time for the SportsGrid sound off. Two teams with college football playoff and national championship aspirations. BYU, Texas Tech, going to have a big showdown in Lubbock, Texas, coming up on Saturday. Let's get a preview as BYU goes on the road. It'll be their toughest test of the season. Kalani Sitake, head coach of the Cougars, talks about the challenge.
Our game, going to Lubbock, we're excited for the matchup. Looking forward to the game overall, just the energy and the excitement around it. So we're excited for our role in it and looking forward to the matchup. I can say that Joey McGuire is a really good friend of mine. I've spent many meetings and dinners with him, hanging out and picking his brain, and he's a great builder of culture and character. And so I was really impressed with Texas Tech and their entire group, all their players that they brought to the media day this summer, and carried themselves really respectful and carried themselves with a lot of confidence. And you can see a lot of that working through what they've done this season, what they've accomplished. So congratulations to them and their fans. We're just looking forward to this matchup, and we know it's going to take the best of us to go in there and be victorious. But I'm just focused on the prep this week and focused on what we can accomplish and how much better we can become as a team between now and by the time we get there on Saturday morning before kickoff. So
contrasting styles, the focus of our next game here. We've got number 6 Oregon going on the road for a very unusual matchup against the Iowa Hawkeyes. As we mentioned, Iowa runs the ball and Iowa plays defense. So that's what Oregon has in store coming up on Saturday, as Dan Lanning, the head coach of the Ducks, talked about that challenge.
And just in general, the way they fly to the ball. And then they run the ball really well, and they have a quarterback that's dynamic with the ball in his hands. So it's going to be a real challenge for us in a great environment in Iowa. And obviously, Coach Ferentz does a really good job, so we can open it up.
You're on the right, Zach.
You always say that bye weeks are work weeks. What was the main objective for you guys this past week, and how do you feel about where this team's at going into this final stretch of games?
Yeah, I really like the work that our guys got in. This past week, I think we found some things that we could grow from. I talked a little bit about it, last week, just our ability to jump into some self-scout, attack some things that we felt like we could improve, and then really identify what's going to show up with these upcoming opponents. In my mind, we're kind of in the third quarter of the season with what we're facing, and there's some great teams that we're going to see over the next few weeks, and Iowa certainly sets that off. I'm shocked this team isn't ranked if you look at the way they've been playing, especially recently, and the job that they've done. They jumped out really fast against a Minnesota team that plays good football, had a big win this past weekend. So I think this team probably is not getting near enough credit that they deserve for the kind of team that they are.
Speaking of deserving of credit, how about Mike Elko, Coach of the Year candidate? Texas A&M ranked number 3 in the country. This is going to be a tough challenge. They got to go to number 19 Missouri this week, and Elko talks about how basically they cannot look ahead to the college football playoff or even week 13 or 12 or anything else. They're just focused on this week in Missouri.
In terms of the peaking part, it's such a hard thing to gauge. You certainly don't go into the season when you look at, okay, we got to go to South Bend in week 3. We're going to identify week 9 as, when we want to peak. I think you're trying to push this growth mindset in your program that, we've got to come out of the blocks ready to go. No team is their best version in the start of the season. You want to really be a team that grows every single week and really understand that the best teams and the teams that are standing at the end get significantly better as the year goes on. And, and then hopefully get into this month of November where, everything's at stake and you understand the urgency of that better maybe than we did last year, and you continue to see that growth through the month of November, which then I think leads to people talking about, it looks like they're peaking, but I think it really kind of just step ladders all the way through the season if you do it the right way.
That should be one of several SEC showdowns coming up before the college football playoff, and by the way, we'll find out later today exactly what the rankings are for the college football playoff, which really is probably the most important piece of news in college football. Bill Bender also joins us, courtesy of Sporting News, to go over the very latest in just a few minutes. But up next, we got Brad Thomas getting ready to weigh in on tonight's NBA games, also recap what happened in the association on Monday night as well. We're back with more NewsWire next.
You see this team, and they're talking about A.J. Brown still. You know, it's an injury. We want him. Are we going to ship him? This situation has to play out in the sense of, I think he wants to be there, but at the end of the day, you can't disrupt the locker room every single week. And the Eagles need him to be there if they're going to make a Super Bowl run.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The playoff matchups for Asher Genty are not great. We start to look ahead. I know it's early, but it's not that early. So Genty, I think, is still a better long-term guy than it is maybe a redraft situation, especially with the schedule maps out. But I don't see a lot of games where he's potentially in a situation where the Raiders are ahead and running the football a ton, if you know what I mean. It's kind of tough out there for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Are they chanting? Is it over? Does
They'll
he
be
accept
gone
the
by
resignation?
halftime. No,
Are they chanting fire, Brian,
probably.
Kelly?
Yeah,
Clap,
why,
clap,
it would
clap,
be
clap,
it
clap.
would be warranted. It would be. I mean, you won a national championship in 2019. You're getting top 5, top 10 recruiting classes each and every year. You had the quarterback back to back to back to back. How many more chances are you going to get? I mean, really, what are we doing here?
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
One playoff win, and it's been a train wreck in every other year. But if we all agree that he was right in how he handicapped the quarterback talent coming out of that draft, and they got the right guy, and I think we all do agree on that, then what's the benefit of bringing a totally new voice into the room to now be the coach of Jackson Dart?
The Craig Carden Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Brad Thomas is locked into his NBA props. Maybe we'll get some today if we're lucky enough. He joins us now here on NewsWire. Brad, great to have you back here. And, certainly last night I was not up for this one. I've spent way too much time staying up watching baseball. I need my sleep back here this week. The Miami Heat defeat the Los Angeles Clippers, a very big surprise to win on the road like this. Back-to-back, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Portland and then the Clippers, 120-119 the final. Bam Adebayo is playing like he's on a mission maybe to win Defensive Player of the Year. He's been fantastic. And here is Eric Spoelstra after the game talking about just how everything has come together.
You just kind of had a feeling in that second half that no matter what, it was going to end up in that kind of finish. But I was really encouraged and pleased with the defensive mentality that second half. Guys really, did some difficult things. That's a really skilled offensive team. And Pella really sparked everything in that third quarter, just with his passion, his energy. And then Davion and Wiggs showed you what they're capable of, on the ball or just making plays off the ball. Really impressive. And Bam, continues just to be our leader.
Yeah, I don't want to overreact to this, Brad, because this is like me doing, 8 days into the baseball season and talking about a team that's going to win it all, like it's Kansas City or something like that. But I will say this, man, like the Heat's off to a really good start, Brad, win or lose. They look like a different team. It looked like Jimmy Butler sucked the life out of them at the end of last season, and they're putting this all together. Their main acquisition, by the way, Norman Powell, hasn't even really played all that much here. What's going on with the Heat? Are they just that well coached and have a player on the verge of superstardom here in Bam?
Since last year, being able to close the chapter on Jimmy Butler. But let's also remember in the game they played against the Clippers, for those who stayed up, James Harden practically gift wrapped the game after an 8-0 run. After that 8-0 run, he had 3 or 4 turnovers, and they weren't forced turnovers. They were turnovers of poor decisions, like one where he was trying to feed the ball into the post while getting double teamed. It was basically around the back pass. And the Clippers, actually, so far this season, it's a very small sample size, but have been terrible with rest advantage. I don't think they've won a game with rest advantage so far this season, 0-3. But yes, the Heat are a well-coached team. They have players who can play with that intensity. They brought the intensity to the Clippers, but the Clippers somehow had a shot to win the game late at the end after getting that tie-up. And then Kawhi Leonard, instead of attacking the rim, settled for a three-point shot. Yes, that's credit to the defense, but I don't think we're going to put too much stock in that win last night.
All right, fair enough. See, that's why we have Brad. He stays up late while I'm sleeping. Okay. Mavericks and Rockets. Rockets win 110-102. As right now, it has been, I would say, probably one of the best stories in the West right now, as they're 4-2, as I mentioned here on the season. Dallas falls back here a little bit. Amen Thompson, 27 points. Kevin Durant, 21. Sengun, 26, 11, and 6. So this is a very well-distributed offense as of now with Houston. Do you think that this start that they're off to is legit?
I think it's legit, but I'm also kind of surprised because we knew this team had incredible length. They were already a really good defensive unit. Now they add in Kevin Durant, which adds in more length. But typically when you have a ton of length on the court, it diminishes your shooting. But right now, again, small sample size. They're first in the NBA in offensive efficiency. You pair that with a really good defense. I think they're for real. I think this is a team that's going to make a lot of noise because now they have multiple scorers and guys that they can go to in the crunch.
Now, the Rockets win total is right pretty much where it was at the beginning of the season. It's at 51.5 to win the West, 12-1 to win the NBA Finals. Would be a little far-fetched, but it is Durant on that team, so you never know. 20-1. Okay, Giannis with a big shot last night to beat the Indiana Pacers. Milwaukee wins 117-115. Let me show you this final and also talk about the game that Giannis had, which was 33 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists. It seems like Milwaukee's involved in a lot of close games thus far. Brad, they still have one of the best players in the world in Giannis, but is he enough to get Milwaukee back where they want to be, which is closer to the NBA Finals?
Well, I'm not really entirely too sure, right? I think this team still has the biggest problem being Doc Rivers, and no disrespect, but he's shown time and time again that he struggled to get over the hump. I think they're going to have to make one more trade acquisition. I know bringing in Miles Turner was huge, but I just don't think offensively this team is going to sustain at the level that they have. They played against the 1-5 Pacers, now 1-6. Yes, the team has a lot of fight, but I'm still not super excited about the Bucks as a title contender.
The 76ers take on the Bulls tonight. Let's get a quick preview with Brad here, as maybe he's got some picks or props. Maybe this is the biggest surprise of the season, that you have two teams that are both 5-1 facing off tonight in Chicago. Total 239.5, 240 in some spots here. Maxey has been absolutely on fire for Philadelphia to start this season. Do you have a position in this game?
I don't have a position, but I like points, right? These are two of the highest rated offenses. They play at really high tempos, and defensively, they're about middle of the pack. From a player prop perspective, I still think Tyrese Maxey's numbers are a little low. He's around 25, 26.5 for his points, and he's averaging 33 points per game. But you know what's really funny? I feel like Josh Giddey now on the Chicago Bulls is a walking triple-double. His number around the +3, +400. I still think that's really good value because shortly we're going to start to see his numbers kind of mirror those of Jokic around the +200 to +150.
Suns tonight take on the hottest team, one of the hottest teams in the NBA, the Golden State Warriors. This feels like a big line to me. So, Brad, you'll have to explain this one. Golden State -10.5. Total 233.5. Is I'm looking at the Suns and seeing they're playing pretty good basketball thus far, including a recent win over San Antonio. So why the big line here tonight in the Bay Area?
I think it's because the losing streak for the Golden State Warriors, and they're going back home, a place where they are 3-0 against the spread against a team who's 0-3 against the spread. This is a massive rebound spot for the Golden State Warriors. And I also think for defensive matchups, Steph Curry can go absolutely insane. His line's 24.5. I don't really have it in me to take his over. I would rather just bet the 10.5 because I think if Steph Curry has a massive game, like the 30 to 35 variety, they cover the spread because there's just so much offensive ownership on the shoulders of Devin Booker. I did think this line was pretty cheeky, though. If you don't believe in the 10.5, you take the Golden State Warriors team total under. Yes, the Suns are not a prolific defensive team, but this is a really high number for a team who's only hit it twice, and that was against two really fast-paced teams. I think the Suns will have to slow it down if they want a chance to win this game.
Yeah, line's also 11.5 now on FanDuel, so I must be missing something in this game. Maybe Booker's not playing. I don't know. All right, so historic start for the Oklahoma City Thunder. We know they're going to lose a game eventually, but thus far it hasn't happened. They're 7-0 on the season, and they're 7.5-point favorites tonight against the Clippers, total 225.5. So, all things being equal, Brad, if the Clippers can't win with rest, can they win tonight without rest?
This was like probably one of those games where the Clippers win this game by 30 plus points, right? Where they're going to have no Kawhi, obviously no Bradley Beal, and we might see one or two guys sneak on the bench there. But I'm going with the Thunder, and I actually had this line set closer to 10.5. I took the 10.5, and this might just be me kind of playing with the puzzle pieces too much, but the Thunder were really good with a rest advantage, especially playing against teams on the second leg of a back-to-back. Their average margin of victory last year was about 10.7 playing those teams with a lot of blowouts. They did lose a few, but I think that this is one of those games after a really tough physical game that the Clippers just played, where if it's not going their way early and they're down 20-25, we see Lou pull the plug and just get ready for the stretch of the NBA season.
Yeah. By the way, why no Kawhi Leonard?
I don't think he's playing back-to-backs. I'm guessing that he's out for rest.
We're a week into the season. 1 week.
You need him for the playoffs.
1 week into the season, you can't do a back-to-back. All right, Brad. I know you'd show up for the show if we needed. Okay. You would do the show tomorrow if we needed you a back-to-back. Yeah. Anyway, have a good rest of the week. Thanks again.
Take care.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Bill Bender joins us next.
You see this team, and they're talking about A.J. Brown still. It's an injury. We want him. Are we going to ship him? This situation has to play out in the sense of, I think he wants to be there, but at the end of the day, you can't disrupt the locker room every single week. And the Eagles need him to be there if they're going to make a Super Bowl run.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The playoff matchups for Asher Genty are not great. We start to look ahead. I know it's early, but it's not that early. So Genty, I think, is still a better long-term guy than it is maybe a redraft situation, especially with the schedule maps out. But I don't see a lot of games where he's potentially in a situation where the Raiders are ahead and running the football a ton, if you know what I mean. It's kind of tough out there for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Are they chanting? Is it over? Does he
They'll be
accept
gone
the
by
resignation?
halftime. No,
are they chanting fire?
Probably.
Kelly,
yeah, it would be warranted. It would be. I mean, you won a national championship in 2019. You're getting top 5, top 10 recruiting classes each and every year. You had the quarterback back to back to back to back. How many more chances are you going to get? I mean, really, what are we doing here?
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
One playoff win, and it's been a train wreck in every other year. But if we all agree that he was right in how he handicapped the quarterback talent coming out of that draft, and they got the right guy, and I think we all do agree on that, then what's the benefit of bringing a totally new voice into the room to now be the coach of Jackson Dart?
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Always great to catch up with Bill Bender of Sporting News, especially when we have to dive into the conversation of the year in college football. Bill, right? Am I right about this? The conversation is buyout money, right? Like that's the main topic of discussion. Coaches getting fired in 2025. We had another one over the weekend in Hugh Freeze, who was a likable guy. I think a lot of people would say that, he's fun, he's good with the media, and has done a good job recruiting. But from a coaching perspective, it has been brutal. 6-16 in the SEC over his 3 seasons, 15-19 overall. Auburn's a good job. They'll find somebody good here, I'm assuming, Bill, but he was not going to keep his job at the end of the season.
Well, 1-12 against ranked teams. And they had a lot of close losses this year, Craig, but that was kind of the story of his tenure. They just couldn't quite get those wins. And as for Auburn's going to find somebody, well, they better. They're on track for, since 2021, another losing season. This would be 5 in a row. They were 6-5 in Gus Malzahn's final season in 2020. So if you're taking that job, it's going to be a little bit tougher remodel than you think. I think the problem is they have players, Keldrick Falk, Cam Coleman, but that inability to close close games, especially at home, was probably what did Freeze in.
Yeah. Also, real quick before we get back to some college football, there's some breaking news. NFL Network reports that Jets defensive back, Pro Bowler Sauce Gardner, has been traded to the Indianapolis Colts. Certainly a very big trade on deadline day, especially considering the Colts are pursuing a Super Bowl and the Jets are pursuing the number 1 pick in the draft. But anyway, we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Let's continue with the conversation here with Bill Bender talking about Auburn, going over some of the possibilities. I thought I saw James Franklin maybe going to Virginia Tech. Did I miss that? Because we're going to list him as a possibility here for head coach at Auburn. Brent Key, John Summerall, Fran Brown, Jimbo Fisher is still out there. Willie Fritz is a possibility as well. This is a very difficult market to predict, Bill, just because we have so many open jobs at the moment. Normally it's like 1 or 2, but it's literally like 10 right now trying to predict the spots.
Well, Brent Key has Alabama ties too. And, if James Franklin does not take Virginia Tech, which he's been linked to, obviously, he would be a fit at Auburn to me. He's coached in the SEC and did well. And then one wild card I read on Outkick earlier today, my friend Trey Wallace, he pitched Dabo Swinney. And think about that. Clemson's having a disaster hour. Is it time for Dabo to pack up and go somewhere else? Now, obviously, he's an Alabama grad, so him going to Auburn I would take with a grain of salt, but it would certainly add to the craziness of this coaching carousel.
Let's continue our conversation in college football here. An annual tradition. The Miami Hurricanes are very hyped at the beginning of the season. They win a few games, and they're going to win the national championship. The U is back, and then they lose a few games, and we're going to do it again next year. This time they lose to Auburn 26-20. In a game that they had no business losing whatsoever. I see some people blaming the refs. Are they out of their mind? You cannot lose this game and make the college football playoff and have postseason aspirations. They win in August through October, and then they lose after that. This is what happens every year, Bill, but I live in South Florida, and I got to deal with this every season, hearing that the University of Miami is going to be in the national championship picture. They have to win every game the rest of the season, Bill, and I'm not even sure that gets them in at this point.
A vicious circle. And I don't know that they can get to the ACC championship game even if they get to 10 wins. This was a brutal loss. When you look at the box score alone, without the score, you're like, how in the world did Miami lose this game? SMU only had 23 rushing yards. Of course, the turnovers got in the way. The interception in overtime was a problem. But you have a quarterback in Carson Beck with a 72.5 completion percentage and 9 interceptions. It just doesn't make sense to me that you would have those turnovers. Now, they have Pitt at the end of the year, and there's going to be some ACC cannibalization. But right now, the Hurricanes are definitely on the outside looking in.
Earlier in the season, I was definitely critical of Arch Manning. The last couple of games, he's turned it up here a little bit. I don't know what this really means for the future, but Texas takes care of Vanderbilt 34-31. This game certainly was not this close. I know Vanderbilt scored some touchdowns late to keep it close. Manning, 328 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Bill, Texas will take it if they can get it here. You can only beat who's on the schedule, and you can only take these, ugly losses as they come. But Texas is back in the picture yet again here.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the top 10 in tonight's rankings. This is a team that their losses aren't horrible. They lost in the swamp to Florida by a touchdown, 8 points, and they lost at Ohio State, where the Buckeyes will be number 1 tonight. And Arch Manning's coming around. Who knew that if you let a quarterback a little bit of time to develop, they might do well? And they threw the ball down the field well. Like you said, Vanderbilt rallied with 21 fourth quarter points, but I think Texas also has a good collection of victories. That escape against Mississippi State in overtime is going to be really interesting if Texas is able to go through Georgia and Texas A&M somehow and get to 10 wins.
Talk about unpredictable. Try and help me out here, Bill, who Oklahoma is this season. I got no idea. So somehow they show up this week, go to Tennessee, and win 33-27. That takes care of Tennessee's season. They're done. I mean, they could still play for a nice bowl game, but they're not going anywhere. Oklahoma remains in the mix on the outside looking in, but right there for the college football playoff. Go figure.
Yeah, and the Sooners took advantage of Tennessee's mistakes. Tennessee had 3 first-half turnovers. That leads to 13 points. I'm not sure Oklahoma's playoff caliber. John Mateer looked a little bit better in the second half. He got a little help in the running game. He was taking more hits, and his hand didn't seem to bother him at all. But if you look at their late-season schedule, they still got to play Alabama. They still got to play Mizzou. They still got to play season finale against LSU. And with little room for error, it's going to be tough for the Sooners to get through that schedule. Again, something I'm looking for tonight. I do think Texas will be ranked ahead of Oklahoma, which is flipped in the AP poll. I mean, the Longhorns did win the game.
Ohio State takes care of Penn State. That's not a surprise. They're 11-0-1 against the spread in their last 12 games. They're just cruising through this schedule, Bill. And I guess, what are we saying at this point? It's just all about the Michigan matchup here to determine if they go undefeated?
Well, I mean, Julian saying throwing to Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith last week, 11-11, 11 of 11, 237 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's cheat code. It's cheat code. And I don't know who's going to beat them in the regular season. I think they're going to be 12-0 when they play Indiana, and Indiana's going to be 12-0 in that matchup. That will be one heck of a Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, that should be fun at the end of the season. All right, Bill, great to catch up with you. Thanks again for coming on NewsWire. Really appreciate it. We'll talk again Friday.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Bill Bender of Sporting News joining us. Big trade in the NFL, huh? The Jets punting on the season and maybe even the future. Defensive back Sauce Gardner going to Indianapolis for 2 first-round picks. We'll recap that trade next. Don't go away.
What have the Jays done all season long? And you've seen it, Kev, as a fan of the AL East. They get murdered or lose a heartbreaking game and come back and punch you in the face. They're not. It's what like the old Jays team used to fold, and that's what I used to hate about them. These guys are different. They're like guys you go to war with. It's like, man, you're my buddy. Like, let's go. Like, their clubhouse dynamic. I've never seen a Blue Jay team where everyone gets along.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Apparently, he's a pretty darn good defensive coordinator. The 49ers are decimated by injury. This guy's doing it again. Wade Phillips, Norv Turner, all these guys, there's a lot of great coordinators out there. I'm not so sure Mike McDaniel isn't a real good coordinator, a run game coordinator, a quarterback coach with the 49ers during some Super Bowl years. Maybe he's just not built to be a head coach.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
I think a divorce is coming. I don't think LeBron finishes the year with the LA Lakers. And the trump card he tried to play has backfired on him big time. And I'm here for all the smoke. I got my marshmallows. I got my skewers. I got the fireplace. I'm going to sit back, kicking my feet, and watch the LA dysfunction play out in real time.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
So it's always a question as to whether or not we're going to get a big trade on NFL trade deadline day. It's like a 50-50 shot. Sometimes you get them and sometimes it just goes without nothing. But here we are in the middle of our show, and we got the biggest trade of the season without a question, as the New York Jets bid farewell after signing Sauce Gardner to a long-term contract. He's going to the Indianapolis Colts. It looks like the Colts feel that they got a real shot to win the AFC, maybe even the Super Bowl. They're going to send 2 first-round picks to the Jets, so the Jets will now rebuild for the future, and Gardner becomes the main cornerback in Indianapolis as the Colts try to pursue not only a playoff bid, but maybe even go deeper as well. We will see. So that's the big trade. The other trade in the National Football League, Rashid Shaheed goes from the Saints to the Seahawks. That's the other deal that was just made. We also know Jacoby Myers, of course, is going to leave the Las Vegas Raiders and go to Jacksonville. Now let's get the latest on the Dodgers.
I can't talk about ruining anything today, guys. I'm sorry to disappoint. But we talked last year about running it back. And before I get to that, a word stuck out really to me after we won Game 7, the word mirror. And the reason I bring this word up is because every time we take the field, our players look in the mirror, and what we see is you guys. I talked to a good friend of mine yesterday on the plane, and he gave me the okay to use this phrase. Pat Riley, what's better than 2? 3! 3P! 3P! Let's go!
Fire fans, you deserve this. You pack this place every single day. We play in front of 50,000 people every single night. And you deserve this day. We're back-to-back champions.
Yamamoto.
Buenas tardes. You know what? Losing isn't an option. Thank you, my teammate, my coaches, our amazing staff, and all the fans. We did it together. I got 4. Now it's time to feel the hand all the way up, baby. For 5. 3-peat ain't never sounded so sweet. Somebody make that a t-shirt.
There is nothing better than hoisting up these trophies for you guys. Just like Stan said, over 4 million of you came to watch us play this year, and we delivered. Job in 2024 done. Job in 2025 done. Job in 2026 starts now.
Everybody's been asking questions about a dynasty. How about 3 and 6 years? How about a back-to-back? Yes, we're a mother effing dynasty, baby. But it's a parade inside my city, yeah. That's all I got. Here's Shohei Ohtani.
Hello. I want to say that I'm so proud of this team, and then I want to say you guys are the greatest fans in the world. And then I'm ready to get another ring next year. Let's go.
Thank you for 18 years. Thank you for showing up and watching us play for the last 18 years.
Thank you for being here for me and my family and supporting us. And thank you for all you guys. Thank you, my teammates. You guys are the best in the world. Hey, we love you so much. I'm so thankful for all of you. And I know they're going to get one more next year. And I'm going to watch just like all you.
What have the Jays done all season long? And you've seen it, Kev, as a fan of the AL East. They get murdered or lose a heartbreaking game and come back and punch you in the face. They're not. It's what like the old Jays team used to fold, and that's what I used to hate about them. These guys are different. They're like guys you go to war with. It's like, man, you're my buddy. Like, let's go. Like their clubhouse dynamic. I've never seen a Blue Jay team where everyone gets along.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Apparently, he's a pretty darn good defensive coordinator. The 49ers are decimated by injury. This guy's doing it again. Wade Phillips, Norv Turner, all these guys, there's a lot of great coordinators out there. I'm not so sure Mike McDaniel isn't a real good coordinator, a run game coordinator, a quarterback coach with the 49ers during some Super Bowl years. Maybe he's just not built to be a head coach.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
I think a divorce is coming. I don't think LeBron finishes the year with the LA Lakers. And the trump card he tried to play has backfired on him big time. And I'm here for all the smoke. I got my marshmallows. I got my skewers. I got the fireplace. I'm going to sit back, kicking my feet, and watch the LA dysfunction play out in real time.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Just Baseball coming your way in less than 30 minutes. Let's bring in Peter Peld to break down the latest. There's a lot going on. Baseball's hot stove already underway. Got some opt-outs to talk about, some free agents, managers. We'll get into it all. Peter, thanks for coming on NewsWire. Let's put a bow on the Major League Baseball season. Comes to an end here with the Dodgers winning the World Series again. One of the most exciting finishes to any kind of baseball game that we've seen. A lot of drama involved in the final game and certainly leading up to it as well. The Dodgers do end up winning back-to-back, courtesy of a lot of gutty performances, including Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who was 3-0 with an ERA just over 1, one of the all-time pitching performances in the history of the Fall Classic. I mean, this is one of those where it's rare in sports where you say, I just couldn't get enough of it. That definitely was the case in this series.
Couldn't agree more. And Yamamoto's performance was rare, right? He was the first pitcher since 2001, Randy Johnson, to pitch in Game 6 and then come in on 0 days rest in Game 7, delivering with 2 2/3 of no runs. And I think we look back at the best performances from a starting pitcher in World Series history. You know, maybe I'm 27 years old, so I'm just going to talk about since 2000 and on. Randy Johnson in 2001 and Madison Bumgarner in 2014. And then, of course, Shohei Ohtani becoming the fourth player ever with multiple 50 home run seasons and 2 World Series rings, joining the likes of Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, and Jimmy Fox. The Dodgers are inevitable.
Yeah, they really are. And, you know, the Bumgarner performance to me sticks out also as one that I remember. And I do go back to Randy Johnson and seeing all of those, been around a while, to see these great performances. But I would just say from a game perspective, this, Game 7 gave you everything. So The narrative is that the Dodgers are ruining baseball. I don't think that I don't understand. Maybe because I have a better perspective on this, Peter, but you'll tell me. I don't think the Dodgers are ruining baseball with this $350 million payroll and the Mets 341. I personally don't care about any of this anymore because I think it's all coming to an end. That's my opinion on it. So I'm not going to waste time here crying and being upset that the Dodgers did their very best to just take care of a system that is broken and try and manipulate it the best way they can. The sport, I think, is going to get themselves fixed here in a couple of years. Whether the players like it or not, I think we're headed toward a new era of baseball. So if the Dodgers want to go spend $500 million next year, go ahead and do it. I don't see this continuing forever. So for the time being, if this is their way of operating, so be it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. You know, me personally, I don't think baseball is broken. I just think the Dodgers have made the right moves at the right time. And I think it's really easy for us to sit on our couches after the Dodgers have won 2 straight and nitpick and say, well, they got all the best players. But at the time, Yoshinobu Yamamoto signed a $325 million deal. Craig, I got the receipts. When we posted that video, my reaction, 80% of the comments said it was a bad deal. They said, how can you give a player that much money who has not thrown a pitch in Major League Baseball? Freddie Freeman, the Braves didn't give him the money. They thought he wasn't worth it, and the Dodgers did. Will Smith, who hits the inevitable Game 7 home run to win the World Series, is a homegrown guy. Miguel Rojas, who hit the game-tying home run. Anyone could have had him. Is it the Rays or is it the Dodgers' fault that the Rays didn't want to pay Tyler Glasnow, so they traded him over? You look across the Dodgers team, they just made smarter moves. And yes, they spent the most money, but clearly, you look at the Mets who missed the playoffs, spending money doesn't equal championships. So are we really going to punish the Dodgers for being smarter with their money? I think the Dodgers ruining baseball tagline is quite honestly one of the dumbest things that we're talking about right now in sports, but I totally understand talking about it because everybody is.
Yeah, no, and I guess to a degree, I agree with you, but I personally do think it's broken. I don't think that you can have a payroll of 400 versus less than half, like half the league having a payroll of 50, 60 million. I mean, to me, I think something has got to get fixed. And also I would counter by saying like they can just have horrendous deals. Like what would happen if a bottom 10 payroll signed Tanner Scott to that money? Like they couldn't survive that kind of contract. And the Dodgers, that's just the kind of money, Peter, where it just doesn't matter. They find it in their pocket. But again, I have no issue with what they're doing. And they're going to do the same thing next season. I would do the same thing if I was them. If I was the Mets, I was the Phillies, the Yankees, I would do the same thing. I just personally see it coming to an end. That's the way my view is. Okay, we could do this all day. So Shota Imanaga opts out of his contract, according to ESPN today. Where does he rank, Peter, as far as available free agents? He was not as good this year as he was last year, but I would still assume that he's going to command a serious payday for some team. Would he be a top 5 starting pitcher in free agency?
No. I think the Cubs made the perfect decision to kind of let him walk. Basically, they're going to offer him the qualifying offer. So if he doesn't take it, they get a draft pick out of it. And if he does, they get one more season of Shota Imanaga at a reasonable salary. And if I'm a team, what I'm noticing is Shota Imanaga has made his money on that high fastball if he's able to sit between 92 to 93 miles an hour with that induced vertical break. And he's always been a fly ball pitcher. He's always had difficulties with the home run. But this year, especially towards the end of the season, there was a reason that the Cubs rarely went to him in their biggest spots, even though their rookie phenom, Cade Horton, went down with an injury. The home run to fly ball rate was out of whack. You look at the underlying metrics, a 4.86 FIP. Do you really want to be paying that guy into his mid-30s, a guy who seems like he's already trending in the wrong direction? So I understand where you're coming from. Shota Imanaga at his peak would most certainly be a top 5 free agent pitcher in this market. But right now, with the way he's throwing, I wouldn't want him for more than 1 year. So I think the Cubs did exactly what they should do. You either get Shota for 1 or you get the draft pick.
Yeah, fair enough. And sometimes these guys from overseas, they come over, they're so dominant the first year, and then all of a sudden, as you said, things get figured out. High fastball, that's true. On the other side of town, on the south side, the Luis Robert talks. It's so funny to me, Peter, that they picked up his $20 million option. We've been doing the is Luis Robert trade going to happen for 3 years now, man. And we're just going to do it again. Are we going to do it this offseason? Are we going to do it next year? He just had an awful year, too. 220, 661 OPS. Who would even want that?
He is, and I've unfortunately been buying into Luis Robert for too long, and it's never worked for me. Because you see the talent, right? He has the capability to hit 38 home runs like he did a few years ago. He has the ability to be one of the best defenders in center field. He can steal 20, 30 bases, but the swing and miss, I mean, he's chasing sliders at rates that you only see from Javier Baez when he's at his lowest points. This is a guy who seems sometimes unplayable, and sometimes he flashes that superstar potential, but it just doesn't come through enough. So I understand, I guess, why the White Sox would give him $20 million. You're just hoping that he can give you a $40 million type of year, which he's capable of, but he could also give you a $5 million type of year. So they're taking a gamble. I kind of understand why they're doing it, because they don't really have another choice.
So of all the free agents here, I know Kyle Tucker is going to command the most. I guess my favorite free agent is probably going to be Alex Bregman going into the offseason. Is there a player or two, Peter, that you'll be keeping a close eye on here?
Yeah, Michael King, I think, is really, really interesting because he was emerging as one of the better pitchers in the National League with the San Diego Padres, but injuries kind of got the best of him. But when you look at his stuff profile, especially when he's on, he is as good of a pitcher as any, and he doesn't have a ton of innings on his arm either. But I wonder how teams are going to evaluate him, because again, it's not a long track record of success, but when he is good, he's fantastic. That's a guy who I could see getting a huge deal or maybe a one-year deal, but I want him on my team.
Let's take a quick break. Peter's going to rejoin us here. 7 new managers in Major League Baseball over the last month named. We're going to run through them and get Peter's thoughts on if any are going to make a significant change for their ball clubs. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. We'll be right back.
What have the Jays done all season long? And you've seen it, Kev, as a fan of the AL East. They get murdered or lose a heartbreaking game and come back and punch you in the face. They're not. It's what, like the old Jays team used to fold, and that's what I used to hate about them. These guys are different. They're like guys you go to war with. It's like, man, you're my buddy. Like, let's go. Like, their clubhouse dynamic, I've never seen a Blue Jay team where everyone gets along.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Apparently, he's a pretty darn good defensive coordinator. The 49ers are decimated by injury. This guy's doing it again. Wade Phillips, Norv Turner, all these guys, there's a lot of great coordinators out there. I'm not so sure Mike McDaniel isn't a real good coordinator, a run game coordinator, a quarterback coach with the 49ers during some Super Bowl years. Maybe he's just not built to be a head coach.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I think a divorce is coming. I don't think LeBron finishes the year with the LA Lakers. And the trump card he tried to play has backfired on him big time. And I'm here for all the smoke. I got my marshmallows. I got my skewers. I got the fireplace. I'm going to sit back, kicking my feet, and watch the LA dysfunction play out in real time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state, you're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor, because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Just minutes away from Just Baseball recapping the World Series, which was such an epic showdown with the Dodgers and Blue Jays. Peter Apple will be hosting that show coming up, so make sure you stay here on SportsGrid and catch it. So, Peter, I think the managing cycle, we're coming kind of close to an end here, I think. I don't know. Did the Rockies say what they're going to do? Does it even matter? I'm not sure. But here are the new managers in Major League Baseball. Skip Schumacher was hired right away, and he was part of the organization, so that made sense. Kurt Suzuki gets a magical one-year deal from the Angels. Go figure that one. Tony Vitello goes from college to pro. He'll manage the Giants. Craig Albernaz goes from Cleveland to Baltimore. Derek Shelton takes over in Minnesota after his tenure in Pittsburgh. Blake Butera, youngest manager in baseball, hired last week. And then Walt Weiss will follow Brian Snitker in Atlanta. A lot of compelling stories, I think, coming out of this, but compelling than Tony Vitello getting hired out of the University of Tennessee to take over the San Francisco Giants. This is one where there's no middle ground, Peter. It's either going to be a huge success or a massive failure. Buster Posey seemingly hitching his wagon to that.
You know what? I'm going to trust Buster Posey, and I think that it goes well. I'm a big college baseball fan, and Tony Vitello has been the name in college baseball. He's really done such a good job with those Tennessee Volunteers. So I'm going to go out on a limb, and even though, it's not often that a coach from college comes over to Major League Baseball, but I think it's a good move. I'm excited, and I think it's already funny that he's putting quotes out there that he's going to be Drew Gilbert's babysitter, because that guy is a beautiful psycho.
Yeah, no, it should be fun to see. And, won national championships, of course, at Tennessee, and was the SEC Coach of the Year. And you just don't usually see this. A lot of people allude to Pat Murphy, who was a coach at Arizona State, but for many years before he ended up going to the pros too. So we'll see. What's the other managing story for you here? I mean, I could do all of them here. I think here I'll give you my here. Let me look at it here real quick. Here's my quick takeaways on all. Schumacher, easy, makes sense. Kurt Suzuki, what the bleep, 1 year. Albernaz, very well thought of, makes sense for Baltimore. Derek Shelton, Twins must be in rebuild mode. I think that's probably what's going to go on here, unfortunately for him. Butera, I know nothing about. And then Walt Weiss, they just kind of feel like they had an unlucky season, I'm going to guess, Peter, last year. They think they'll just be better based on who they have. Fair?
I think I couldn't have said it better myself. The one I am really interested, though, is Butera, the youngest coach ever at 33 years old. It's a really young team with the Nationals. Not a ton of coaching experience outside of, the minor leagues. And there was a lot of options around. One that I'm surprised that hasn't been brought in yet is Mark DeRosa, right? Who's going to manage Team USA. I actually thought that he might go to the Braves, knowing that he used to play there, but they went with Walt Weiss. But my biggest takeaway from this, too, is that the Angels, a 1-year deal for Kurt Suzuki, it's basically telling him that, we don't want to pay for a manager because we might have an impending lockout. So they're giving a guy a 1-year flyer. You know what it's like when it's a player and you get a 1-year deal. This is can you prove it? And it's hard to prove it as a manager, especially when the Angels aren't expected to spend. So Butera being the youngest and the Angels doing just more Angel stuff, I guess, are the big headlines here outside of Tony Vitello.
Yeah, definitely so. Okay, so I missed one job here. The Padres, of course, they were caught off guard. Everyone says they were caught off guard by Mike Schilt retiring. There was no indication that this was going to happen. And so they've interviewed a lot of different skippers here. Albert Pujols' name has come up. You're seeing some of his ex-teammates mention that if Pujols gets the job as the manager, then Yadier Molina would be the bench coach, which is kind of crazy. So they would build that in San Diego. And I don't know that the Rockies really are relevant at all at this point. I saw my buddy Tim Healy say that Adam Ottavino interviewed for the GM job. I don't know. I hope the Rockies get it right. They should eventually, Peter, get it right. It's such a shame because they pack that house every night. They lose 100 games and they get 25,000 fans for every single game in Denver. But I don't know. Let's focus on San Diego here for a minute. Would that be something, huh? Pujols and Molina. Are there any other ex-Cardinals that could go join him there?
I would absolutely. I love the idea of that. Right? Albert Pujols, one of the greatest right-handed hitters ever, and Yadier Molina, one of the greatest catchers ever. You combine those two on the bench there in San Diego, it will feel a little bit weird that it's happening in San Diego and not in St. Louis, but I would love to see what that looks like.
And for the Rockies, does it surprise? Look, I think Adam Ottavino is a very sharp guy. I've interviewed him before. I think he would be very good in a front office, but like literally, like has he? I think he just pitched, didn't he? Like last year, the year before.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to speak on what he could do as a general manager. To your point, I think he is a smart guy, and to pitch that long in Major League Baseball without throwing 100 miles an hour, I think it's something, right? We've seen some pitching coaches who, made their money in Major League Baseball by pitching around guys, locating, and Adam Ottavino had that great slider, but maybe he could. I don't even know. I don't know what the Rockies are doing. Maybe Adam Ottavino is good. We have no idea.
All right, let's end with this. I'm going to cover this coming up in a few minutes here, Peter, but one of the contemporary committees for the Hall of Fame is about to pop up here, and I know certainly you've seen a lot of these players play, but the biggest question is going to be whether or not Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are voted in by their contemporaries. It's a small committee of media members and ex-media members that get in. My sense is they are not. My sense is not because they don't deserve it, Peter, but because I don't think that those people that are on that committee want to be the people that put them in the Hall of Fame and being known for that. That's unfortunate, but I kind of feel like that's a direction. I think Don Mattingly's going to get in. What do you think?
I agree. And you took the words right out of my mouth, because you don't want to be the person to skip by the precedent of no steroid users in the Hall of Fame. So if these guys, a small group are going to come together and say, no, we believe they should, I think it'd make a lot more noise than they want to. So I agree with you. I don't think Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are getting in, even though, of course, they have all-time numbers.
Yeah, and I think they should be, but I just don't see those people saying, yeah, we're the ones that put them in. I think it's the opposite. I think they let it go. All right, Peter, great stuff. We'll catch you on Just Baseball coming up here soon on SportsGrid. Thanks for coming on again.
Thanks so much for having me, Craig.
All right, Peter Apple here with us. Coming up next, speaking of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, which I visited this past summer, I'll give you my thoughts on this contemporary committee voting for some potential new members to the Hall of Fame. And by the way, somebody who was linked to Barry Bonds in his past passed away yesterday as well. I'll have that for you. Don't go away.
There's a far longer track record of the Chiefs laying huge numbers and not covering them with Mahomes than anything on the contrary.
And they did that a lot last year where they didn't cover those numbers, but a lot of the time last year they didn't have Rice and they weren't fully healthy, and now they are fully healthy. And now we have an offense that has 4 viable receivers, 2 tight ends, and 2 running backs.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire, recapping our top story of the day. The National Football League's trade deadline is coming up today at 4 p.m. Eastern, and it's already been a very active one, maybe surprising one for a lot of folks, as Sauce Gardner, one of the best defensive backs in the National Football League, is going from the New York Jets to the Indianapolis Colts. In return, the Jets are going to get wide receiver A.D. Mitchell, and they're also going to get the Colts' first-round pick in 2026 and also their first-round pick in 2027. So seemingly the Jets getting the future first-round picks, the Indianapolis Colts getting 2 of them, and the Colts obviously putting their foot on the pedal for this upcoming season. One more trade also to, actually a couple of trades to bring to you here. Rashid Shaheed goes from the New Orleans Saints, and he certainly will help out Seattle. They've had some injuries to Cooper Kupp and some others, but kind of a minor trade there. And also Jacoby Myers. He had asked out of the Raiders for a while, so this was no surprise. Jacoby Myers goes from Las Vegas to Jacksonville, with the Jaguars not having Travis Hunter and maybe even Brian Thomas Jr. Myers, very capable receiver, so he'll help them out as well. And, of course, keep it locked right here to Game Time Decisions at In Game Live for the latest on the National Football League trade deadline. All right, as we wrap up the show today, we'll get to the National Baseball Hall of Fame's Contemporary Committee, also talk about a canceled boxing match, and also hit on someone who passed away that had a lot to do with one of the success stories in the history of baseball. Time now for some Last Licks. Some of you may be familiar, some unfamiliar with Victor Conti. Victor Conti was in the boxing world for a really, really long time. He is what was considered to be a sports scientist, just always trying to give athletes an edge. But then did get himself involved in a pretty big scandal many years ago. You may remember it was the company called Balco in the Bay Area. Conti was allegedly supplying Major League Baseball players with testosterone and steroids, and was investigated by Major League Baseball, and was found that Conti did in fact help out players with human growth hormone, including players such as Jose Canseco and also, of course, Barry Bonds, who is not yet in the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Conti passed away at the age of 75. Great documentary on him and the Balco scandal of many years ago. Was thought to be a pretty arrogant, effervescent type person who basically put his hand in the face of Major League Baseball and said, I'm going to do whatever I want. Ended up getting caught. Balco ended up going away. But a lot of boxers would tell you that he helped them out with their boxing in the past as well. Victor Conti passes away at the age of 75. That leads us to our next story. The National Baseball Hall of Fame revealed the contemporary committee and also the players that are eligible to be voted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. These are baseball players over the past 20, 30 years who played the game and did not make the Hall of Fame based on the writers' ballots of being on the ballot for several years, and showing up on the ballot for the contemporary committee for the first time, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, who have been linked to steroid use in the past. And we'll see if they end up getting voted in next month. We'll find out at the winter meetings in Orlando in December. Also on the committee, and somebody that I am really, 2 guys actually that I'm really hoping that get in. I mean, if Bonds and Clemens get in, that's fine with me. But Don Mattingly, Dale Murphy, how these guys are not in the National Baseball Hall of Fame at this point and have been retired for 30 years is crazy. Hopefully the committee sees their way through that, gets those 2 guys in. Also, by the way, Carlos Delgado had a fantastic career. His name is on the ballot as well. I don't think he's going to get in this time, but I think eventually should. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Don Mattingly, and maybe Dale Murphy. Probably 2 of those names that I just gave you get in next month. Finally, a fight that was going to happen right here in my backyard at the Kaseya Center in Miami was all scheduled. I'm seeing billboards all over town where I'm driving, and I'm in Broward County. It was going to be Gervonta Davis against Logan Paul, and this fight has been canceled out of nowhere because Gervonta Davis is in a lot of trouble with the law and is allegedly being involved in some kidnapping scandal that we have no idea when this happened. But either way, he is not going to be able to fight Paul. Paul and his team apologized for this fight that was supposed to happen on November the 14th. He's not going to fight anybody else that night. It's just too soon to get somebody. It's just, it's literally like next week. So no fighting anymore probably for Gervonta Davis, who's in trouble with the law for like the millionth time. And Jake Paul, will have to fight somebody else, hopefully in December. All right, that'll do it for our show today. Thanks to our great guests here on the program, Donnie Rightside, Brad Thomas, Bill Bender, and Peter Apple. Thanks to all their contributions here on the show. Thanks to our friend here at SportsGrid, John Grill, for putting that fantastic Dodgers montage together. Hopefully we will nominate that for an award at the end of the season. It was well worthy of it. Thank you to our director, Luke, for my producer, Frank. I'm Craig Mish. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be back here tomorrow for our next edition of NewsWire. Just Baseball's up next.